welcome everyone to Press A Repeatedly. I'm your host, Christopher Gold, and joining me this week is a special guest, Louis Tomasello.
Hello.
Louis, why are you here?
I thought I was always here. I'm the second host.
I mean, that's not true. Ordinarily, Justin is the one who's hosting.
Justin? He's our one of our special guests we have on once in a while. What are you talking about? I'm with you every day and helping you with this podcast.
I mean, you know, now that you mention it, you are the one who edits it and everything. So, yeah, I guess, I mean, who am I to doubt my co-host? You know, you're the one who's been with me on this long, wild journey through all these 80-plus episodes.
Right. So, let's move on. We have a special episode today.
Right. Unfortunately, we were going to have Justin guest host the episode this week, but he came down with a case of the food poisoning.
So tragic.
Yeah, tragic. You know, he was so young. Yeah, this is the second time that I'm aware of that he's gotten food poisoning.
Yeah. Did he say what he got it from this time?
He did not, which is concerning. But you know what? If he lives through it, I'll be sure to question him and see what it is he ate that set him off. But I don't know what it is about him and food poisoning. He gets he must get some sort of weird sick enjoyment out of it if he gets food poisoning so often.
Well, I wouldn't want one of our number one fans to die from food poisoning, so...
No, absolutely not. I mean,
no.
as you know full well, Louis, we need the listeners and the downloads as much as we can. So if we lose even one fan, even one as throwaway and as unnecessary as Justin, that will severely affect our numbers. That's mean. I take that back. Justin is very necessary. We love all of our fans equally, don't we, Louis?
Yes, we do.
Speaking of Louis, Louis, you just got back from PAX East yet again.
Yes, I did. This is my second time going.
Yes, and this is your second time being on our show, telling us all about your experience. So that's actually going to be our topic a little bit later. Louis is going to kind of dive into his experiences with PAX once again, the things he saw, the things he experienced, and also I guess I just wanted to also pick your brain about what was different this time versus last time. Was the show laid out better? How was everything? So we're going to get we're going to get into all that a little bit later after our break. But for the time being, Louis, it has been a while since you've been on the show. I have no doubt you've been playing a lot of games. So, Louis, what are you playing?
Okay, so funny thing is, I went back and re-listened to the episode that I talked about PAX the first time, and I took a little detour and was like, hey, what was I playing back then, like 80 episodes ago?
Yeah, that was episode 7 for the record.
Right. And I listened to it, and honestly, I'm a little embarrassed to say I'm playing the same game I played 80 episodes ago.
That's fine. I mean, you find a game, you stick to it, you like it. What is that game?
The game I'm referring to is Final Fantasy Record Keeper. It's the mobile Final Fantasy game made by Dina and produced by Square Enix.
Ah, I see.
Yes. So, Final Fantasy Record Keeper is a turn-based RPG, and it's about you playing as a little bookkeeper named Tiro, or whatever you name him, because you can make up your own name for him.
Tiro, T-Pain.
Yeah, T-Pain. You can name him that too. And you're an apprentice to Dr. Mog, who is a Moogle with large amounts of knowledge and history of the different Final Fantasy worlds.
Of course.
So, Each time, so for unknown reasons, everything is stored in a painting, and it briefly captures a part of a Final Fantasy game, and you store all these paintings, but sometimes the paintings will become corrupted by an unknown darkness. So your job is to go into the painting and fight the corruption so that you can restore the painting to its original form.
Right. Now, just a quick question. So these paintings become possessed by the darkness.
Yes.
Um, is that necessarily a bad thing? Because, I mean, the paintings are just paintings. They could be good, they could be evil, but they're not going to do anything because they're just paintings.
Well, I think the paintings are linked to that world, and they hint that if you don't restore the painting, it's going to corrupt whatever timeline is in that painting. So it will inevitably corrupt the game that comes from.
Aha, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. That adds more urgency to everything. Okay, I get it.
Now, it's not always clear what the objective is, but it basically means like you fight the dungeon, you beat it, you gain rewards and stuff like that, and they're always adding new stuff to it.
Right.
Last year they added nightmare dungeons, which were like super hard boss fights, and you would get like magicite, which is like strong summons, and then you can collect up to I think there's at least over 100 characters now from every Final Fantasy game, including tactics and spin-off games and like other varieties besides the 1 through 14 or 15 now, because we're up to 15 now.
Right.
You can have the 5 characters in your team, and they're all laid out like if you were playing Final Fantasy VI. So you have the sprite, the 32-bit sprites. I think that's how much they were.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things I like about it. You have not only updated sprites of like the really old games like Final Fantasy 1 through 5, but then you also have sprite versions of like Cloud and Noctis from 15 and Lightning, and you see like the stories play out in like their version of the sprites and stuff. I'm just like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's like it's kind of like a merge of all of these different IPs put together.
Oh, okay. That's that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And each character you can bring up to 2 abilities with you, and equipment and all that stuff. And you can spend currency to do a random roll of like equipment to see like if you get any rare equipment for characters. And sometimes the equipment will have limit breaks, and that helps figure out which characters you want to bring into battle so you can make your best team.
Right.
And so I think we're on this is their 4th year they've been online, and they're doing an anniversary event, and that's how I kind of ended up back into it. For a while I wasn't playing it, but now I'm back into the game, and I'm like constantly like online seeing like, oh, did they update the new banner yet, or did they add anything new? I'm just like constantly on it. So
that's cool. Yeah, that's it's nice that they're still supporting it like 4 years after it's been released. That's that's really cool. And, and like anniversary events and all that.
It's at that point where in the very beginning I felt like, there was definitely reasons to suspect like they were trying to force you to spend money into the game, because you can actually purchase real money or real currency with money.
Right.
But nowadays it feels like they're just giving away everything like candy, and I'm always constantly getting stuff back from them, so I never feel like I need to spend anything anymore. So it feels really free to play at this point.
That's really good. Yeah, I'm glad. They probably figure at this point they may have gotten as much money as they needed to from it, and just figure, let people play if they want to play it. So
yeah, I mean, there's definitely still reasons to spend money if you're like a super fan and you want the best equipment and the best stuff. But if you're just playing free to play and you want to just use what you get, then you still turn out pretty well. My favorite part now in the game is that they added a story mode actually to the game. So they actually have original characters now, and you get to go around, and there's like this whole plot where there's these corrupted record dungeons that recreate the actual scenes from the games, and your character and then another female character named Alara are trying to fix them before they explode in the real world and destroy like an entire island and stuff like that.
Yeah, the usual.
Yeah, and there's like hints that like maybe Dr. Mog is like a bad guy and he's trying to like get this to happen, and you've got like these characters from like a different library or arcanum that are like rivals to your library, and it's pretty cool. It's like something that, and you don't have to spend any stamina in order to play them, so it's all free and it's really cool.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that actually sounds awesome. Like,
yeah,
you wouldn't think they would have that much support for a mobile game, but
yeah. Dina is also, I think, the same people who work on Fire Emblem Heroes. So if you're that's what the level of expectation you would probably get from that kind of game.
I see. All right.
Mm-hmm. The other game that I'm playing, which I know you've seen me play recently, is Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice.
Yes. So I also picked this one up after you had left, because Lewis had come over to my place and he was playing it for a while, and Elena and I were watching him play, and I kind of got hooked, and I picked up the game for myself afterwards. So,
oh wow, nice.
Yeah, so
how far did you get so far?
I'll let you go first, and then I'll go. You go, and then I'll go.
Okay, that's fine. That's fair.
Yes. So, tell us about your experiences with Sekiro.
So I've played From Software games before. Like, I've only ever played Bloodborne, but I mean, that's as much as if you've played any of the Dark Souls games, then you're definitely going to feel similarities to those games.
Right.
But the gameplay wise, it plays drastically different. So instead of guarding all the time and waiting for an opening, you're constantly engaging with the opponent and trying to counter their attack so you can find them an opening. Because in Sekiro, you're a samurai, and samurais have different fighting styles than knights, so you're definitely going to be doing things differently.
Right.
And first, like, couple of hours were, definitely rough to, like, get started, because apparently, like, not knowing what you're doing, you're going to end up dying a few times. But eventually you do get better. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. I like how it feels like there's constantly different routes I can take, different pathways. So if I get stuck on something, like a boss I can't beat, I can always decide, okay, I'm not doing anything here. I can't get further than I am. I'm just going to go off and go to this other pathway and see where I can go. And then, same thing happens. You get stuck on one part, you go back to the old part, and you find out, oh, I have enough stuff now I can beat him with.
Right.
So, that's different. In Sekiro, you play a samurai who's lost his lord, and you have to fight to get him back, because he's been kidnapped by his family, who are trying to overtake the clan. And your arm gets cut off and replaced with a prosthetic, and it's a wooden arm that you can augment into different weapons and tools. So you have one that throws shurikens, one that creates an axe that you can use to destroy wooden shields, one that's a flamethrower, and so on and so forth. Yeah. You also have like different ability trees you can unlock for your prosthetic arm and for your swordplay, and you can you get a healing gorge, which is kind of like your Estus flask in Dark Souls, where it just keeps refilling, and you can upgrade it to have more refills, so you can go in and fight monsters for longer periods of time.
Right.
And after the initial like gameplay wise, it feels kind of just like a Dark Souls game. So if you've ever like experienced that, then this is kind of it. The one thing I will say that's very different is the resurrection mechanics, which give you one chance to revive after you've dived once with half health, and then you can go back and fight again. And then you get more like resurrection nodes every time you beat someone. So if you beat enough people while you're still alive, you can get another node, so you can come back twice. Right. Instead of one time.
Right, and that's where the game is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. That's where that comes in. You can revive again after dying, and then you get to die again immediately.
I think that's also upgradable. I think I've seen gameplay footage of people with more than one resurrection node.
I think it is too, yeah.
Yeah, so you can have more than like 2 at a time, but you have to constantly find equipment and stuff to upgrade your character with. I'm not very far in. Last time I was with you, I couldn't get past the.
It was a monk hunter, because you're
right.
Because the character is. I don't think it's a samurai. I think it's a shinobu monk. They call him a shinobi, and the guy that you were trying to fight is a shinobi hunter. Mm. So he was very problematic. He was a pain.
He had a spear, which was something you didn't. If you've played the game up to that point, you probably haven't encountered someone with a spear yet. So that was like introducing a new mechanic into the game. But the way that you have to beat him, which I didn't know until later, you have to unlock this ability called the Mikiri counter. And it's specifically designed for spear users.
Is that kind of like a move where like you jump onto their spear when they thrust it at you?
Not even. You just like you take your foot and you just slam it down on their spear when they're after you dodge, and it stuns them.
Oh, nice!
It just denies them the encounter. Yes. And for most spear user enemies that are like weaker enemies, you're going to kill them instantly from that point. Mm-hmm. But with that boss in general, you had to, after you did that, you would have to just attack him until he got his bearings back.
Right. And a lot of the bosses, like when you swing your sword and you attack them, most enemies, like you kind of knock them off balance, and then you do like a kill blow to finish them off. And the bosses usually take multiple kill blows to finish off. So ordinarily the smaller guys, like you'll jam your sword like through their neck or like in the side of their neck and down into their body, to kill them. And you'll do those same moves to the bosses, but it won't kill them. Like you have to do it a couple times, which is weird, but I mean, it works.
Yeah. I was actually lucky because when usually they have bosses, they have like little enemies like surrounding them, so you have to like go and sneak around and kill the smaller enemies first so you can fight the big guy with no issues. I managed to do that, and then when he was attacking me, I ran away briefly, but then I snuck back behind him and then I finished him, and I got one of his insta kills down. Nice. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know I could do that. So apparently any of the bosses can be stealth killed. So
right, and that just knocks off one of their death blows. Then I think you have to fight them normally after that to get the rest of them. All right.
Well, once you get past that first one, it's so much easier. And then you don't have to like worry so much about not having enough potions and stuff to heal you. But as soon as I beat him, I got a little further in that path. But then I got immediately stuck again by another boss. So
okay.
It's Juzo,
the drunkard
bandit. Yeah, the drunkard. Which the way he fights, it doesn't feel like he's that drunk because he still kicks my ass. And
yeah, he's a big boy. He's a big truck of a man.
I don't know how to do it. It's like, with big enemies, it's weird in Sekiro because it feels more like a Dark Souls game when you're fighting a big enemy because there's no way to counter them. You can try and block their attacks to counter, but they take off so much of your posture gauge, and then if you let them hit you too much, then you're stunned. So you are basically kind of in this strategy where you just kind of dodge a lot and then wait for an opening and then you attack. So then it feels just like a Dark Souls game.
Right. Yeah.
But Juzo is just annoying just because he has so many people around him, and I try and kill as many as I can, but I always end up attracting him before killing everyone, and then I have to like run around like 5 times to make sure like I kill everybody first, and then I fight him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now there is a guy that helps you. He's like an NPC, and if you approach him, he's like, "Oh, so you've made it this far? Well, now we can fight together, ha!" And he just like starts going up to him, but I'm just like, no, wait, don't go yet. I have to kill these guys first.
Yeah, I think the best strategy for dealing with him when you get there is go try to kill as many of the smaller guys as you can, and then once you get them taken out, and then if you manage to do that one stealth kill like you talked about on Jozu, then talk to Mr. NPC helper guy.
Yeah.
And
no,
then...
I try to find a way to stealth him, but it's really hard. I don't know if I need a certain ability so I'm more stealthy, but it's like, I think just the where he is at the moment, it's hard to like get up close to him, and it's kind of hard not to kill his the people near him without attracting him. So it's like,
right.
I might have to look up a guide or something for that one. But after a while of not being able to beat him, I was like, okay, let me see if I can fight this other boss I couldn't beat before. And it was
right.
the not the golem. What's it called? He's like he looks like a giant person, like a giant. But he's locked up at first, and if you approach him, he rips out of the cage and then he starts attacking you.
I have no idea.
No?
Yeah,
okay. I don't know if you're that far in yet.
Yeah, I haven't gotten him yet.
Yeah, I forget what they call him. I think that they call him an orc, but he kind of looks like just a giant white man.
Oh, like an ogre or something?
Yeah, the ogres.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which it's kind of funny. He kind of looks like a giant Norwegian guy. So it's funny how like I think in Japanese culture that was one of the things, like they saw Norwegian guys as like ogres in their culture.
I mean, that makes sense. Like, have you seen Norwegians?
Nope, probably not. So I guess that's true. So
our one listener, Sven, listening in Norway, is like, what the fuck, and then he just shut the podcast down.
I'm sorry, Sven.
That's all right. We didn't need Sven.
So
God.
I'm fighting him, and they have a moment where he is trying to grab you. He's a grabber. He likes to grab you a lot, and when he grabs you, he kills you in one shot. So don't let him grab you.
That's very rude.
But when he misses you, there's a small opportunity where you can actually hookshot him, and you get flinged up to him in the air, and then you can do like a spinning down attack on him.
Oh, that's badass.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that part. But you don't want to stay there too long because then he'll start grabbing you again, so you have to like back away as soon as you do that. And then he has a weakness to fire, so if you don't go in with the fire blower prosthetic, then you're going to have a lot harder time of beating him. It's not impossible, but you're going to have a harder time beating him that way. So I set him on fire, and then I get like about 10 hits on him, and then I back off. And then I'll use the fire move again and do the same thing. And that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's always a lot easier to fight someone when they're on fire.
But you only have so much, they have like a limited amount of uses, the prosthetics, and you have to keep finding these paper dolls, which are the currency for them in the world. So you only have so many of them in the beginning, and the flame bomber move takes up 3 of them. So you're only using it like 5 or 6 times before you have to start just fighting him normally.
Okay. So, overall, like, I mean, you mentioned you played Bloodborne before. You haven't really played the Souls games that much.
Hmm.
Compared to Bloodborne, how do you like Sekiro?
It's tough. I think it's different enough for Sekiro not to be its own game at this point. Um, it's not completely similar. I think it would be more like a Bloodborne than a Dark Souls game at this point, because Bloodborne was kind of similar. You would have to get in their face and use your firearm in order to stun them, and then you attack, or you would try and find an opening like you would a Dark Souls game. But I do like how it doesn't feel like a roguelike. So if you die, the only consequence of dying is that it's in-game story related. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
you don't lose too much. You lose maybe some money, but money is like easy to get from not just killing people, and you don't have to feel like you're going back to retrieve your blood souls or whatever, and then using them to try and level up all the time.
Right.
So that's kind of the best part of it, I think, is just because now I don't have that anxiety of trying to get back my souls, because then, like always, I'll end up trying to get to them and then someone kills me randomly, and then I lose them all.
Right.
And
Okay.
then other than that, it's a pretty game. I like the way it looks. I love the lighting they used for it.
Oh, it's
And
gorgeous.
yeah, it doesn't feel like all dark and dreary like the other games, even though they're meant to be like that. It's just a different feeling. And there's a lot more story involved, which is nice. I don't have to constantly be looking through a guide or finding sublore in a wiki page to figure out what's going on. Sekiro pretty much lays it out for you in cutscenes and tells you exactly what's going on, and you don't feel lost.
Yeah, that's that in and of itself is a blessing. Because Dark
Hmm.
Souls, they kind of let you like, oh, figure it out. But Sekiro, it's the story at least is more laid out for you, so you know why you're doing what it is that you're doing.
So, other than that, I think that's it. I haven't been playing much besides those two games.
Okay, so I'll kind of go off from there and just continue on with Sekiro.
Okay.
So I don't. You may have noticed, like I kind of knew a lot about that one area you were talking about in particular, Lewis, with
Hmm.
Josie the Drunkard. So when I bought the game, and I bought it digitally, and my PS4 told me, oh, you already have like a copy of this game, like a disc version. Because remember, you brought the game over and you played it on my PS4.
Oh.
So
So you played off of the file that I made for you.
yes. So
Okay.
as soon as I loaded up the game, it said, "Oh, continue," and I was like, "Continue," and then I was like, "Oh, right, Lewis was playing on my machine." So I said, "Yes, yes, I will
Oh
continue."
God. That
So
probably wasn't the best choice.
I mean, it put me in that same general area where you had started out, where you have to make your way up through that like row of houses, and you jump behind the one building and you sneak kill the one guy. I mean, we like I had briefly played that section when you were over because we were all giving it a shot. So I wasn't completely lost. The only thing is, like, I had to kind of fiddle around with the controls a little bit to figure out, oh, what did what. But at that point, I was able to actually like figure it out, and I got I made pretty good distance. I went into this little side area and killed a bunch of baddies over there. I went past the one shield area, that one little staircase where the shield guys were, and I
Mhm.
made it to that one area where the shinobi hunter was. And I was like, okay, there's this guy, I'm like, oh, like, how am I going to fight him? I know he was giving Lois a lot of grief. He looks really, really hard. And then as I was pointing my grappling hook up towards the tower to try to get up there, I noticed that I could also target a branch that was off to the side of the bridge a little bit that was down the river. And I was like, huh, I wonder what that's all about. And by following that pathway, and like going down the river for a little bit. I made my way up to that one area where eventually you get to like that one village that's like completely engulfed in flames. And
Hmm.
then I made my way to Josu the Drunkard at that point. And I very I was very dignified. I was very stoic as I was fighting him. Uh, I I was I mean, I ran from him in a very dignified manner, screamed like a little girl, crying my eyes out
Very dignified.
in a stoic, brave demeanor. Uh, yeah, he kicked my ass multiple times. Uh, and it was funny because at one point I did find that one samurai who was waiting by the pond, and he was like, "Oh, you made it this far? Come on, let's go kick his ass." He didn't say exactly like that. He said it more of an ancient Japanese style.
Hmm.
But I was like, okay, where were you this whole time? You could have. I mean, you're loyal to the Lord. You're loyal to our Lord. You could have been fighting these guys, but whatever. So we went up, and he and I just started kicking Josu's ass. And Josu, thankfully, he was focusing on that guy and not me. So I'm like slashing at his back and his giant ass, and then Josu turns around, and he's got a big like he's got that big jug of, I'm assuming, sake, and he just gulps a huge gulpful of it down and just goes bruh, and just breathes his breath at me, and it poisons me and just like killed me. And
Aw.
oh man, I kind of deserved that. Yeah, and then like he took out my like helper dude, the samurai, and he was like, "Oh, my lord, forgive me," and he like collapsed, and he'd like barely done any damage to Josie. And I'm like, thanks for the help. But yeah, I had never played a From Software game before. I hadn't really played any of the Dark Souls games, not Bloodborne. Aside from, I think one time I was over at your place and I played Bloodborne briefly, but I never really put any serious time into it. And I gotta say, it's fun. It's a very well polished game. It's well built. It's
Hmm.
a lot of fun. Like a lot of the challenges, like yeah, the game is very challenging. Even like a lot of the minor enemies, you have to watch out for because they could kill you very very quickly.
Right.
But even then, like, it doesn't feel like the game is impossible. It feels like you can do it. Like, you just have to keep trying, and you figure out, like, okay, here's strategies for dealing with these guys. Here's different things that I can do. It doesn't feel unfair. Like, it's hard, but it's not unfair. And I do want to point out that one of the key mechanics that they've added in this game that they didn't really have in the other games was the grappling hook. That grappling hook is a lot of fun. Just like
Hmm.
zipping to the rooftops and trees. It just, the way it snaps you up there, like it just feels good.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's the one of the best parts of that game is that it's so easy to traverse the whole world with the grappling hook.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I was to describe a From Software game, it would have to be similar to maybe a Mega Man game, just in the terms of difficulty. And in Mega Man, like, you're kind of like the same way. You're deciding, like, this one guy, I'm going to go fight him, and then you die a lot. But from dying, you're kind of figuring out attack patterns and how to beat him. And sometimes you might decide, oh, I might not be able to beat this guy, but I might be able to beat this guy. So you go off and do other stuff, and you're just constantly learning from death. So it doesn't feel like you're losing, but just gaining from the experiences.
Right, but at the same breath, like I feel like a lot of stuff that kind of takes you off guard. Like I have been critical in the past about like Mega Man and Sonic, like their kind of level design in the past for being for like surprising you with different things, and then you do have to learn from death. I feel like with Sekiro, yeah, it's more likely that you're going to die just from the challenge of it. but it doesn't feel like anything is kind of thrust at you in an unfair manner. Like a lot of moves are kind of telegraphed. Like you're not exactly sure what to expect from certain moves, but you can kind of know like, oh, when your opponent is doing this move where he's like really deliberately grabbing for his sword, you automatically know like, oh, he's about to do something. What's he about to do? And so you kind of like get your guard up, or you get ready to dash in a certain direction, or even jump over what it is that they're trying to do. So
Mhm.
you kind of have a level of preparedness for something that is for what's about to occur. Now, there is a bit of trial and error there in figuring out, okay, what exactly is the move set there. But I feel like where some like the early Mega Man games, they would just kind of like boom, throw something at you, and given the hardware limitations of the time, you couldn't have that real quick that quick reflex that you needed to avoid those moves right away.
Mhm.
But with something like Sekiro, like everything is very telegraphed. You know what to expect. You kind of know to expect something is about to happen. So for me personally, I don't find it as unfair as a lot of those earlier games. But that's just me.
Okay. Anything else you've been playing?
Yes. So so we talked a lot about Sekiro. I also managed to play one of my top 5 most anticipated games of this year. That
Hmm.
is Yoshi's Crafted World.
Oh, yay, it finally came out.
Yes, it finally came out. Now, I didn't buy it myself. Elena is the one who bought it. She bought it on her Switch, and she had brought it over, and the two of us were playing the co op mode. I gotta say, like, the game, yes, is not very. It's the demo that I had played had hinted that this game was not going to be hard, and it's not. It's definitely very very easy. It's a game that's
Hmm.
it's designed for children. A lot of kids or families like it'll be like their first platformer. The parents will help them out while playing the game, and I mean that's fine. Like it's a well built, charming game. Like it's a great little platformer. The new aesthetic for this game is that uh, everything looks like it's Yoshi's crafted world, so everything looks like it's built from arts and crafts. The levels are designed. It looks like they're made out of cardboard. They have, for example, we had just gotten to the second world where it was an underwater theme. So everything looks like it's set in a diorama, right? Made out
Hmm.
of all the levels, the platforms are made of cardboard. The backgrounds are like coated in what looks like construction paper, and they have little fish that are tied to like plastic straws, and the fish are made out of like paper plates with little angles cut out of them, and they're just kind of like waving back and forth in the background. And it's just so charming and just so clever. Like as we were playing it, Elena was pointing out like, oh, look at like the little coral. It looks like pipe cleaners that are like twirled around, and it's just like the level of detail and polish to make the game look and feel like it's literally a game that you could handcraft. It really it's just got such a charm and a wholesomeness to it. I mean, Yoshi has always been my boy, my favorite, and this game, like for me, is a big reason why. Like not so much the it's not so much just the challenge of the games. It's not hard. Like you're not going to go in and expect like certainly not Sekiro levels of difficulty when playing one of these games, or even like one of the new Super Mario Brothers U games. But
Hmm.
it's just so nice and relaxed. Like there's no time limit to anything. You can go at your own pace. You can just enjoy the world around you. There are enemies in the game, but most of the time the enemies are very passive, like they're shy guys, and they're just kind of walking along the levels like meh, 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 meh. And then you just eat them and make eggs out of them, and it's just there's no rush to anything. You just go at your own pace, and it was just very nice and very relaxing. It was, and the co-op mode was great too, because I was the green Yoshi and Elena's the pink Yoshi. And in co-op mode, you both run around and you can do anything a Yoshi can do: ground pound, throw eggs, and you can throw eggs in the foreground, the middle ground, or in the background. So that's a new unique concept to the egg throwing. And in co-op mode, you can kind of swallow your teammate. Like, you use your tongue and swallow them, and you can spit them out to reach different ledges or to take out enemies. Or one of them can jump on the other's back, and that's kind of the way that we were playing. Elena became in charge of the egg throwing, and then I was in charge of the running and jumping. So I would jump to different platforms, and I'd see like something there and be like, "Oh, hit that cloud," and she'd hit that cloud, or she'd see something in the background, and she's like, "Oh, there's a fish in the back, like I can hit that." So it's like, "Okay, go for it," and she went, whoosh, and she get like some coins out of it. And for us, like, the way we're kind of making the challenge for ourselves is we're going through the levels, and there are the flower points, just like the original Yoshi's Island. There are the max health points, the little tiny heart guys that bob all over they kind of jump all over, and you have to collect all of them. The red coins and the flower points. If you collect all of those in any one given level, then you get 100%, and you get the little crayon flower at the end of the level that marks it as, yes, you did it 100%. And
oh, cool.
yeah, so, and there's additional challenges too, like if you get, like, you can find the flower points throughout the level. If you finish the level with all the red coins, you get flower points. If you get 100 coins, like regular coins in the level, you get a flower point. And those flower points can be used to unlock later levels in the game. So they're kind of like it's Super Mario 64 Galaxy, the stars or the moons. The more of those you get, the later levels that you can eventually unlock. So that's kind of the same mechanic that the flower points are using.
Oh, that sounds pretty fun. I'm wondering, did you guys do the reversed Poochie levels yet?
Not yet. I did do in the level, in the demo level, where you can reverse the level and go back to get the Poochies. But it was actually weird. We went, because as soon as we beat the first level, I was like, "Oh, let's go back in, and the level should reverse, and we can find the Poochies." We jumped back into the level, and it was just the standard level. So I don't know if we just have to keep going in the game to unlock the Poochies. Like, we'll find Poochie, and it'd be like, "Oh, find my puppies in each level." And it'll be like, you can talk, but we'll then be able to go into each level, and it will be the reverse. And then you can actually see behind each level, so you can actually see how everything is all constructed out, which is really, really cool in its own right. So far, I'm having a blast with the game. I think it's a lot of fun. Elena and I are having a ton of fun with it. In fact, as soon as we're done recording, that's probably what we're going to be doing, is playing more of the game. So,
oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, so
I think
I'm really excited. I'm enjoying it a lot.
I think this is definitely a good game for couples, because they definitely hype up the cube factor in that, and
oh yeah,
it's definitely a fun game for kids because of the difficulty level for them. There's not enough Nintendo games that I can recommend to kids under the age of 5, so this is probably a good one.
Mm-hmm. And it's perfect too, because with co-op mode, if you're a parent, you can jump back in and you can really help out, especially if your kid is struggling a lot with the game. It really offers a lot of leeway to help them out. So it's a really good co-op mode.
Awesome.
Let me see. I've been playing more Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Lewis, we were playing briefly when you came over,
Cool.
when you brought over Sekiro, and I distinctly remember that you were roster shaming me. Cause we were looking to play the different play matches against each other, and you were like, wow, you've got nobody unlocked. My defense to that, Lewis, is I've been busy. I don't have time to unlock everyone. And Nick will back me up. He says it takes a long time to unlock all those characters.
Well, you just play the World of Light, and you play for like 10 minutes and then go out. You get a chance to unlock someone else, and you're also unlocking people in the World of Light. So,
well, that's what I'm doing. I'm playing the World of Light. Now, I didn't know about jumping out every time.
You're whining a lot.
You know, I don't have to take this from you. You know what?
Oh.
This episode is your last episode as co-host. I'm officially firing you.
Who will replace me? Who are you going to replace me?
You know what? Just to spite you, I'm going to ask Justin to co-host the episode, co-host going forward.
What? Justin doesn't know how to co-host.
Well, you know what? I'll give him a crash course.
I've been with you 86 episodes in.
Well, and today is the end of the road. Sorry, Lewis. Your days are done.
Fine. I was looking for retiring anyway.
God, can you imagine trying to retire on a podcaster's salary? Here's a pro tip. You can't.
Yep, you're just fired.
You're just fired. Yeah. Yeah, take your cardboard box and go somewhere else.
I actually was playing that on the road a little bit. Me and my other two friends who was with at PAX were playing it. Mm-hmm. We were waiting for one of our friends to get out because we had to like unpack and bring all of our stuff to the car. So the three of us said, let's play Smash. And like, oh, but we don't have wireless controllers. And I'm just like, well, we have 3 Switches. And I'm pretty sure there's local wireless.
Yeah.
And so we tried it. And it was okay. I mean, I didn't think too much on it. It still feels weird to play handheld mode.
Right.
On with the Smash Brothers game, but it's doable.
Mm-hmm. No, that's... Yeah, I mean, for me, I primarily play handheld mode too, so that's what I'm doing with Smash Brothers also. And I don't know, it's just more comfortable for me. Like,
yeah,
I can work with it. But yeah, I'm slowly but surely getting there, unlocking all the characters.
I saw there was a lot of people with their Switches this year, and they were all playing Smash on it when they were waiting in line. So I guess PAX's #1 handheld game to play while waiting was the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Nice. All right, and the last game I've been playing, this one is a bit of an interesting one. I kind of wish that Justin was on the show now so I could like hear his reaction to it. Because this one I just had to play because I was just curious. So, as you may have heard last episode, Justin said he still had lingering issues over having to play My Horse Prince. And so he had compiled the list of awful games that he is now going to have to reference to if he ever needs to give me a bad game. He said he got it from 2 anonymous fans, which, I don't know, Lewis. I got sneaking suspicions that one of them might be sitting across from me right this second. But I'm not gonna throw out any accusations out there. I'm just supposing. So
I hate to break your bubble, but he never asked me for any like special games to give you. So I have no idea who he asked.
Oh my god. The plot thickens.
Yeah. I think you're gonna have a little bit of a trouble with this one.
I will figure out who those people are. But anyway, so Justin still had lingering feelings about playing My Horse Prince. I remember after I had given the game, I had gotten texts from Matt saying, "Oh my god, Justin, I played this game, in solidarity with you, and it is wretched. Nick had texted me after, he said, Chris, you have gone a horse too far with this. I said, what? How bad could this game possibly be? So I took the unprecedented step of downloading my horse prints for myself so that I could actually play it and see, okay, how bad could this game possibly be? And and I gotta say, this game sucks shit. Like, this is a wretched experience.
Oh my god.
I'm like, the none of it makes sense. Not even, okay, discounting the fact that this lady is in love with a human-faced horse. That is probably the most believable thing. The whole mechanic of like, oh, the horse prince is just kind of like galloping around the screen and you have to tap different things, like, oh, when he's in your kitchen and he's cooking food for you, you have to tap the leeks and he'll just start chopping them with his hooves. Well, depending on his energy level, you get points. So, like, if his energy is like 75% or whatever, and he starts chopping up the leeks, then he'll get like 30 points. But if it's down to like 50%, and it'll get 20 points. Like around 20%, it's 10 points, and then like 10% energy, you get 5 points. But the thing is, the little energy bar across the top of the screen, it doesn't fill up at a level that's similar to like the number of points. Like, I swear that bar filled up based on, oh, you got 30 points. It filled up the same amount as it did when I got 5 points. And that was barely anything. Like, it barely filled up at all. And my horse prince got exhausted very easily. And so I had to just kind of like let the app sit and just let him be like, okay, do whatever. And yeah, Justin had mentioned, you talk to the horse prince at the end, and you talk to him during these mini games, and it'll be like, oh, what do you like in your soup? And what do you like in miso soup? And I remembered, Justin, who was it on the show? Was it you? When he was playing
me.
Yeah, it was you. And we both were like, well, of course you say carrots. Justin was like, well, carrots don't go in miso soup. And we were like, Justin, you have to play to the horse. Like, you're trying to seduce this horse. Like, you have to tell him what he has to hear. So I remember that question. So I said, you want carrots? And sure enough, he was like, aw, I know you're just saying that to make me feel better. He's like, you're so sweet. And that was the excellent answer. And I was like, there, you see? It's not that hard. So, but it was just such a slog. It was such a slog to play this game. It was just, wretched. Absolutely wretched. And the continuity of it just didn't make sense. Like, this very shallow woman who was like, oh, I work in an office. There's no hot guys. Let me go to a ranch where there's sure to be hot guys. She's put off by the human-faced horse, but then like 2 chapters later, she goes down into her kitchen, and she's like, oh, hey, the horse is down there making breakfast for you. And she's like, oh, okay, blah, 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 blah. And she just met the horse. She's clearly in the phase of this story where she's like, oh, I'm not so sure about this horse, or owning a human-faced horse. I should probably quit at some point. But then should I? Oh, I don't know. So then the human-faced horse is in her house making her breakfast, and she's just like, oh, okay, whatever, la-di-da. Like, she never questions it. And I was like, girl, you can't just let a human-faced horse into your kitchen. That's step 8 down the path towards bad things happening. No, you gotta let this horse go. It's just... so much about this game was really, really awful. The smallest bit of me almost regretted giving Justin this game. I almost felt regret. I was like, oh man, like, I put Justin through this. Like, this is like it was awful. Yeah, I kind of almost felt bad. I gotta admit, the game
Well,
almost got me to that point.
I guess we'll have to bury it in the backyard and hope to never speak of it again.
Yes, let us never never ever have to discuss or try to seduce any horse princes now or ever again. That was what I've been playing, but it's not all I've been playing because we still have to go, Lewis, into the indie arcade.
Indie arcade.
Yay! What'd you play?
So, before I begin, Lewis, I just want to say, I know I fired you in the middle of what are you playing, but thank you so much for being a trooper and sticking through the end of this episode. I really appreciate that.
I mean, I guess that's fine. I'm hoping I can convince you to keep me around first.
We'll see about that.
All right.
But anyway, so the last time Justin had assigned to me the game Laser League to give a shot. So this is ordinarily where he would say, well, what do you think? So what do I think? Laser League is a fine game. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's not bad. It's just, for me, fine. So Laser League is it's kind of similar to Rocket League, where you're teams of 3 and you're in a little arena and you have to compete against the other team to try to activate these lasers that kind of go all around the arena. So it's a top-down perspective, and it's you and 2 other people, and you're either like neon pink or neon green. And most of the arena is like a very dark, like black color, and you've got like the arena surrounding everything's white. The little nodes that pop up are white themselves. And what you have to do, and they kind of pop up in a bit of a random order. Like there's a pattern. You can tell that the game kind of decides what they're going to throw out to you in each particular match. And so what you have to do is you have to touch each of these nodes, and when you do, the laser inside is activated, and it goes all the way across the stage, or it goes to like a certain length. And say like you've got some nodes that are in the middle of the screen, and you touch it, and it's kind of a cross shape. So it goes up, down, left, and right, and it's your color. Well, now at this point, the other team cannot touch that laser. If they touch that laser, they die. And the object of the game is to get everybody on the other team to a death state. And that's either through touching a laser of the opposing team's color, or by using your own character's abilities to kill them. And, I'll get into the abilities a little bit later. So, the lasers, there's all different types and shapes, and they pop up usually in a similar pattern from game to game. So, you'll start the level, and a node will pop up, and then a node will pop up over there, and then one in the middle. And so you'll touch it, and then you just have to kind of run around and try to touch the other nodes as they appear. And when you touch a node, it stays your color, or it stays the opposing team's color for a certain amount of time, and then it fades away, and then it becomes an open node again, and then either you can touch that node now, or the other team, they can touch it again and make it their color again.
Okay.
So some of the lasers, like, they'll stay in place, and they'll go across the whole screen. Others will maybe like rotate as after they're activated. Others will they'll stay in a straight line, but the node will move across the level, so it will kind of like create like a little branching. It'll create like a little trap for some players that they might not be able to get out of. Now, what's interesting is the walls of the arena, the outside. If you say, like, you go down the bottom and you go through the bottom of the arena, you'll appear at the top of the arena. And same
Okay.
like if you go through the left, you'll all of a sudden appear at the right. So if you feel like the walls are closing in on you and you need to get out of there, then you can just go through the wall and you can escape very quickly there. But then you could have like a different laser at that other wall and it could trap that other player. So there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of moving parts and strategy to the game. Each character that you can go in as, there's different classes. There are characters that have a shock ability. So what they do is, after a certain amount of time of running around, your ability charges up, and then you can use whatever that ability is. Now, some characters have, like, for example, an area of effect shock ability. So any opposing players who are in their area will get shocked and they'll get stunned and they can't move for a few seconds. So if, for example, a laser is rotating towards them, you could shock them, paralyze them, and then they can't get out of the way when the laser hits them. So then they'll be killed.
Okay.
There are now the character that I was a thief character. I always love being thieves. So my specialty was called a node steal. So when my ability charged up, I could go over to the node where an enemy's laser was and activate my ability, and then it would change that laser to my team's laser. So there were a lot of times where, like, if nodes were moving across the screen and they were about to intersect, I could activate my ability and get both of those lasers at the same time and change them over to my team's lasers.
Oh.
And there's a lot of thinking because a lot of those lasers kind of change hands very quickly. And so you have to think, like, okay, if it's your laser, if it's your team's laser, you can run through it very easily. But if it changes to the enemy's laser, all of a sudden, you're careless, you're not paying attention, you could wind up dying all of a sudden. So you have to be very careful about that sort of thing.
Right.
There are also, like, different power-ups, there are different power-ups that activate that either team could use, which do different things to the arena and to the game itself. Like, there's a power-up called Switch. So if most of the lasers are the enemy teams and you get the Switch power-up, you could hit the switch and then all the lasers reverse allegiance. So now all those lasers become your lasers, and vice versa. There's a divide power-up where holes appear in the lasers, so you could run through an enemy's laser if you needed to. You also have the ability to revive fallen teammates. So when somebody dies, they leave a little icon behind at the spot where they died. If one of your alive teammates can rush over there and just run over where the icon is, you don't have to, like, tap anything, hit any buttons, your teammate will be revived and they'll be back in the fight. And then once you get everybody on the other team dead, you get 1 point. And the first one to reach 3 points overall, because then it goes, like, back and forth certain times. Once you get 3 points, then you win the game. And then there's, like, 3 games in a match. So, and the first person to win 2 games in a match wins the entire match total. So you have to play each of these rounds multiple times to win the game, and then eventually you do that again to win the match.
Okay.
And
that sounds like it's really involved.
It's very involved. And honestly, like, as I was playing the game, like, I could tell, like, all right, you know, it's cool. Like, the concept is really neat. I feel like it's a game that would be a lot more fun if I were playing with like you or I almost said you or Lewis, if you play with you or Justin or Nick or Elena or any of you guys, and I could like communicate with you guys as I was playing. Because when I played an online match, and there was me, and then it was 5 AI created bots. So it was me and 2 bots versus a team of 3 bots. So it's like, was no one just playing this game right now when I played? I thought the game would be a little bit more popular, but at the time when I played, there really wasn't any other human player that it matched me up with. Now I don't know if that's just how the matchmaking worked or what was going on there, but it was just kind of like I was going through the motions and doing what I needed to do to win, and it just didn't feel like fun. I wasn't like, oh yeah, I got that node, I killed that guy. I wasn't like, hey, I got you. I was just like, yeah, all right, that's it. I won. I won, and then I was like, okay, great. Like it didn't do anything for me. And that was just playing the game pretty much solo. I mean, again, I was playing against computer-controlled opponents. I definitely feel like that it's a type of game where if I was playing with friends and we could like talk to each other, maybe trash talk, or be like, "Ooh, I almost got you," just like little banter like that. I feel like that would add a lot more enjoyment to the experience. But as the game is now, like it's fine. It is what it is, but it's not exactly setting my world on fire.
Okay, well, we'll probably have to get a podcast team together and then see how it is multiplayer-wise.
Yeah, I feel like it will be a lot more fun multiplayer or like co-op, because it can be competitive like co-op or competitive depending on whose team you're chosen to be with or however it works. But I think it could be a lot of fun. But yeah, definitely don't recommend a solo experience.
Nice.
All right. So that was Laser League. Now, this is my favorite part of the show. This is where I get to assign Justin an indie arcade game to play for next time. And I have talked to Justin. Just because he's not on the show this week, he said, like, I can still assign him an indie arcade game. He just won't be here to react to it or argue against it or be like, oh no, which is really great for me that he's not here. Because it's just going to be such a great time when he's editing this all together and he hears for the first time and actually looks it up.
I'll try and react in a way that he would if he was here.
Yes, yeah. Just role play as Justin for the time being. So, Justin.
Yes, Chris.
That's a great impression. The indie arcade game that I'm going to assign you, it's on Steam. It is only 99 cents. It's always a great sign. This is a game that is all about revenge.
Ooh.
Lewis/Justin. The indie arcade game I am assigning you for this week is Bad Rats: The Rat's Revenge.
Bad Rats. Huh.
Yes, The Rat's Revenge. Bad Rats is a physics puzzle game where rats finally get their bloody revenge on their new prisoners, the cats. Come up with creative solutions for each puzzle using physics, functional objects, and your specially trained rats. Try different ways of solving each puzzle to finish faster or earn higher scores. So, basically, you are rats. And you have captured your longtime arch nemesis, the cats.
Oh, God.
And it is up to you to use physics-based puzzles to punish these cats in outlandish, cartoony ways.
Oh, God.
It's
like the models. I can't look at them.
Yeah, this is not an attractive game, by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, it's comic. The game promises comic cartoon violence and cartoon blood, realistic physics simulation, 10 specialist rats anxious for revenge, 11 different and bloody deaths for cats, 10 other functional objects to help you, 44 maps from easy to very hard, internet and local records, original cartoon-style characters, challenge your creativity, intelligence, and logic, and unlock all the Steam achievements. So, yeah, this game has mixed reviews on Steam.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah, a lot of the reviews though are like one person has the game recommended, has 1 hour on record, and all he says is, "Why do I have this?" And that's a positive review. So I think this is a classic case of Steam reviewers positively reviewing something ironically. Just to be like, oh, this is the greatest game of all time.
One person says, do I hate this game? Yes. But if you truly understand how the game is played, it is a good game. I'm just like, huh.
What does it even mean?
I had no idea. It reminds me of that cat sim, dating sim on mobile devices that people don't like. I forget what it's called. But it has that unnerving feeling to it, looking at the 3D models.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of the way the game looks. But luckily for me, I don't have to look at it. Justin has to look at it. So it's not any it's not any worry of mine. Yes, that's exactly what Justin would say in this scenario. Oh darn. So yeah, Justin, when you're putting this all together, enjoy, have fun. I can't wait to hear from you about what you think of this game. So that's it. That's the Indie Arcade for this week. So Lewis, what do you say we take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk all about your experiences at PAX East.
Nah, I think I'm good.
All right. Welcome back to Press A Repeatedly. Christopher Gold here, joined as always by Louis Tomasello. And Louis is here to tell us all about his experiences once again with PAX East. Now, Louis has been on the show before. It was back in episode 7 where he first had gone to PAX, and he told us all about his experiences at that point. We learned a lot because Justin and I, we'd never been to a major gaming expo like that before. So it was definitely very interesting and helpful to get your insight at that point. And So, Lewis, you've been to PAX East once again. The show just wrapped up for another year. What were your thoughts so far? What was your favorite part?
So my favorite part would probably have to be two things, actually. One would be the keynote speech at the very beginning, and the second thing would be the amount of indie games that were present at the convention. That was a lot more than the last time I'd been there, so it's getting... You can tell just from that it was getting bigger and bigger every year.
Nice. Now, this was your second time going up there. I imagine the first time, like, you were trying to figure things out, like, logistically, how to get up there, where you're going to stay. Did you learn any lessons from the first time? Did you go up kind of the same way? Any advice or things that you thought were helpful getting up there?
So I didn't learn anything from my first time because I made the same mistakes. Though I tried to avoid them. I went up with friends like last time by car, which is doable.
Right, because it's up in Boston ordinarily.
Right, and it's not. I have pretty bad motion sickness, so I hate long car rides. But to most people, it probably isn't that big of a deal if you can get past the 5-hour car ride from Jersey to Boston. Then you should be fine. But yeah, it was pretty good. I was with my friends again that I went to last time, and unfortunately the living situation was not great this time around.
What was so bad?
So we downgraded from a tiny room in a hotel to a tiny closet room in a Airbnb. So my one of my friends, Mike, who made the room, unfortunately was, I think, a little misled. I can't blame him entirely for this one, but he wanted to find a cheaper room for all of us with bigger space for all four of us to sleep on. Because last time we only had the one single bed room in the hotel room, and we were just trying to like make work by bringing like sleeping bags and all that stuff. But these guys had bunk beds, one for each room. So he had asked if he's bringing 4 people up, is there enough space in these rooms?
Right.
And I guess the people said yes, thinking we were all going to fit into one room, and that's what we did.
4 people can't ordinarily fit in one room.
No, and when he found out that he only booked one room by accident, he was so mad at himself. He felt like, oh my god, I can't believe, because he thought double meaning double room, but double meaning the double beds in one room, I guess is what threw him off.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh my.
So think closet size dorm room with just a bunk bed, a desk, a TV, and that's it. Barely any room. Communal bathroom?
Oh boy. So you all had to share one bathroom.
Not only us, but the residents near us as well.
Oh god. Oh man.
It was pretty clean. I'll give it that. I think I only used the shower once, and it wasn't that bad. But
I mean, okay, but ugh.
I know. Just the feeling of it was kind of skeevy, but so we made it work by having one person on the top bunk, because I think it was only like able to support one person anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 3 people had to kind of chopstick it on the bottom. So we were all like laying horizontally on the bed.
That doesn't sound the greatest.
No, I don't think I got a lot of sleep. And honestly, I think I was running on caffeine those last 2 days. because when I got home, I slept like 12 hours, and then I slept another 10 last night.
Yeah, it takes a lot. I mean, not even just like staying overnight at a place like that, or going on Sunday. Just that trip alone, like taking a 5 hour ride like that all by itself. That's a lot of wear and tear on you. Like that takes a lot
Yeah.
out of you. Like when I drive that long and I get somewhere, I am exhausted.
Yeah, I think next time I'll have to help a little more with choosing of the rooms, just because I kind of
Yeah.
left it up to him, thinking, oh, he knows what he's doing, but should have double checked with him before all this happened. But again, it wasn't that bad. The location was really nice. It was in South Boston. It was only a 20-minute walk from the convention center.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
So
cool.
location-wise,
it's right
it was
there.
really good.
So that's good. I mean, at least it was within walking distance, right?
Right. Hmm.
So okay, so it was at the convention center. Now last time I remember you had mentioned like there were a lot of lines, like huge lines to everywhere and everything. Was that
Okay.
the same experience this time, or did they improve that somehow?
So PAX before only lasted from Friday to Sunday. Now they've added Thursday as an additional day to the
Ah,
convention.
okay.
So we decided to do Thursday and Friday this year instead of Friday and Saturday. And it honestly was way better. Thursday is probably the best day to go. It's the least amount of people. There were still tickets available for Thursday, honestly. And like if you're going to go on Thursday, do all the big gaming displays first. Like do all of like the big Nintendo games, do the big Square Enix booth that day. It takes off a lot of time. And then the next day you can do other stuff. But it was good. Like I said, the keynote speech was probably my best part. One of the best parts because they had brought in Aaron Hansen from the Game Grumps to do the speech this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it was great. He talked about like his experiences and how he was how he kind of started from being just an animator to his decisions to work on Game Grumps, and he was saying how a lot of it was like very scary at first, but he didn't let the fear get him down, and he still did what he thought was the best thing for him at the time. So,
Right.
really great speech. Then afterwards, me and my friends, we explored the expo hall a little bit, and we played a couple more games there. So the first game we kind of stumbled upon was this game called Fling to the Finish, and
Ooh.
it's a co-op multiplayer platformer. Hard to describe it. So you have two people on one controller and then two people on another controller, and you're sharing it. And one person controls the D-pad and the analog stick on one side, and the other is controlling the buttons and the right analog stick. And you're controlling like these two little like animal-shaped fuzzies that are attached to a rope, and you have to kind of platform your way through the level.
That kind of sounds similar to I know IGN for a while. They had this show that they were doing back when Breath of the Wild came out. I forget what it was called, but basically two of the guys, what they would do is they would play Breath of the Wild, and one person was holding one Joy-Con and the other person held the other, and they pretty much controlled Link using both controllers, and they had to like communicate with each other on how to like actually make everything work. So it sounds very similar to that basic mechanic.
Yeah, it was a lot like that, except you were also competing with two other people who were sharing another controller. So you had to both you had to cooperatively get through the level while also going as fast as you can. which made it really fun.
Oh God, I can't even imagine like having to communicate with people like, oh, do this, do that. No, 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 you gotta go there. It's like there's that extra sense of urgency because you're not just working together, you're competing against somebody else.
Yeah, I want to make it a shout out. So the company that made it is called Split Side Games, and they're on Kickstarter, and their game is called Fling to the Finish. And they're also on Discord, splitsidegames.com/Discord.
All right, Split Side Games, showing off their moves.
The next game that I didn't get a chance to play it, but I was watching my friend play it. It's called The Last Epoch, and it looked like a third-person, top-down adventure game, kind of similar to Diablo.
Okay.
Yeah, so that game, based on just looking at it, it was Diablo, but with a lot more skill involvement. So it had a lot, like a bigger skill tree than Diablo, and it had different like classes and stuff. I think there was like a Beastmaster in one of them.
Okay, yeah. So I'm looking at a video of it. It's got that like slightly isometric look that like you mentioned, Diablo has. Yeah, it's very similar in look and style. It looks like.
Yeah, it's a game. It doesn't say. I try to get as many cards from people as I was going through them. It says it has time travel, 15 mastery classes, 110 skill trees, epic loot, online co-op and PvP, and endless replayability.
Nice. It looks great.
Yeah. It doesn't have the company name on it, but it does have a website, thelastepochgame.com. So, a shout out to them.
So I see like they've got there's a Kickstarter link. It says by 11th Hour Games. So I guess that's the development team.
After that, we didn't have a lot of time in between to look around because the next thing that was happening was the Gearbox panel.
Ah, right. This is what I wanted to ask you about next. So, big reveal at PAX East was the Borderlands 3 reveal. So,
yeah,
were you there? What were your thoughts?
I was not there, unfortunately. I waited in line for 2 hours and was not even able to get in.
That sucks.
They capped it. First of all, they capped the line off at the last half hour, I think. Which was fine, because I was like, oh, okay, we got here an hour early. We're pretty far in as it is, so we probably will get a seat in the convention, in the big main theater. Well, that theater was already full. Like, all the chairs were taken up, and they were still bringing in people to sit against the wall or they were just stand. And there was still not enough people for us to get in. So I ended up watching the Gearbox panel from my phone as it was streaming live.
Literally in the next room over.
I know.
Man. But hey, you were there. Like, you got to kind of be there at Ground Zero when they revealed the game. That's pretty cool.
Honestly, I was glad I wasn't even there, because I was watching it as it was playing, and it was pissing me off because as I'm watching it, they're like, first of all, they did like all their indie games. Like, they mentioned they're doing an expansion for We Happy Few, and they're doing a bunch of stuff for they had a game that was coming out. At one point they were, I guess, eating up time, and they unveiled their Borderlands card game. And the guy there was literally doing a magic trick with some of the audience guests in order to fill the time up. And I was like, are you serious? If I was in there right now, I would have been so mad, because I probably would have waited longer to get in. And he's doing a magic trick and taking his time. On top of, the video for Borderlands 3 kept freezing and cutting off. So they had to keep resetting it.
God, that's very, very frustrating.
Yeah, not a great start by Gearbox. But, yeah, they did. I did watch the trailer after they revealed Borderlands 3. Mm-hmm. I'm excited about it. I mean, I've never been a huge Borderlands fan, but it looked good, and out of all the shooter genre games, it's probably one of my top 10 favorite ones.
So you have played the first couple games before?
I've played 2.
Oh, okay, so you did play 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you weren't, like, I guess, as excited for Borderlands 3 as a lot of other hardcore fans were, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't excited about it, but I love seeing big, like, studios coming to PAX and trying to, make it more exciting by unveiling new games and stuff, so...
Right. Yeah, no, that's it's still really cool to be part of a big event like that. And I mean, obviously, Borderlands 3, that was the headline reveal of the show itself. So that was definitely the one thing that you would want to be a part of, or at least see as it was being announced.
Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned Fling to the Finish and the last Epoch. Any other games that stood out to you? AAA, indie? Were there any weird things that happened? Maybe not necessarily game related that you thought was like, yeah, that's weird.
Not really. Nothing weird. Like, I mean, I'm haven't even scratched the surface though of all the games I got to play there, so I'm like kind of going through them. So after we got done there, we went back to the exhibition hall and we played this one game called Bless Unleashed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Xbox exclusive free-to-play action-adventure game by Bandai Namco.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And you're basically one of like 4 or 5 classes, and you're going through this level and you're fighting. It's very combo-based, so all of your skills are linked to your combos. And then you also have a quick guide with 4 abilities that you can map to. And then there's like dodging, and there's a lot of like skill-based action to the game. So we actually went and did that twice, because every time you went through the game once and you defeated the boss, they give you a prize, and it was like a random prize out of a couple stuff. I didn't get it the first time, but I got a prize the second time. But I only got like a pin, where my friend Mike played it twice, won both times, and he got a scarf and a t-shirt. I was like, great, that's my luck. Just didn't get either of those things.
You know what? Mike was due. He was due for some good luck after the whole booking fiasco.
Yeah, that's true. It was good looking art. I did enjoy the game. The only problem is, so far they've only slated it for Xbox. They didn't say anything about it being on PC or anything. And it is free to play, so I have no idea how like currency and microtransactions are gonna affect the game at all. So
right now,
but look out for that.
Elena has an Xbox.
Yes, I understand that. I also understand that she probably won't let me play a game that she's not going to play herself.
I mean, that's for you two to discuss.
So the next game that we got to play, me and Mike broke off from the group and we went and stood in line for Days Gone, because I was at the show.
Oh, okay. So you actually got a chance to be hands-on with Days Gone. Nice.
Yes.
So this is a game that Justin and I both have been very meh about. Like, this hasn't really excited us or given us any reason to be like super, super hyped for it. So I'm very curious. What do you think now, actually getting a chance to play the thing, or at least a demo version of it?
I was under the same impression going in as you guys were. Mm-hmm. My friend Mike was also kind of mad, but he was more excited than I was about it, so we got to try it out. They gave you a choice of one of 2 demos to choose from. One was like an easier stealth mission, while the other one was a hardcore mission that had like a huge horde coming after you. so you have to kind of choose which one you like the most.
Right.
I chose the stealth mission, and so far, I mean, I was playing the game for a while, and I felt like, there wasn't much different from if you were playing maybe The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
It had the option to like explore, and there was definitely a lot of like looting and finding things in the environment to use to craft. And the enemies there were kind of creepy. The freakers is what they call them in this world, and there were adult freakers, but there were also child freakers, and they called them I think sprites or something. Ew. And the sprites don't attack you unless they're in huge groups. Other than that, they usually like try and like flee and stay above ground. But if you get alone with them, they'll run and jump at you, and they'll try and like eat your face out. So you have to like kind of kill them. And sometimes the deaths are pretty gruesome. You get a melee weapon as well as like shooting weapons, and the melee weapon is even more gruesome because you have like just this wooden bat and you're beating them with the bat. I'm just like, ooh, okay.
Oh god.
There was this one scene where one of your friends gets captured by another human group, but they were kind of like crazy, and they were just lighting his arm on fire, and game didn't really explain why. So I had to go in and save him, and then all you see is like this charred arm that he has left, and that was it. That was the end of the demo, and I was like, great. So my opinion on Days Gone has not changed at all. It's a
awesome.
It is probably a lower quality version of The Last of Us. If you're waiting for The Last of Us 2 and you have nothing else to play, I'd say pick it up and try it out for yourself and see if you like it. But other than that, I'd say skip.
Yeah, that's really the impression I've been getting of the game ever since I first saw Sony reveal footage of it. I'm just like, what the hell is this? And everything I've seen more and more of it really hasn't excited me. It's just really reaffirmed my feelings of, yeah, this is not for me. I should just skip this one. So, yeah, that's not really altogether surprising that you didn't really enjoy it all that much. So, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. There's a lot of games that are coming out this year, so I don't really mind that all that much.
Yeah, gotta be picky, gotta be choosy.
Absolutely.
So, the next one... So, after we did that, one of the games I really wanted to try out when I got there was the new Samurai Showdown game by Capcom.
Oh, a new Samurai Showdown?
Yeah,
they're coming out with a new Samurai Showdown in the year of our Lord 2019. Oh my god! Wow, this truly is a new golden age for Capcom.
Yeah, so they've been teasing it for a while now, but it's basically a 3D, like an HD 2D version of the game. So, kind of in the same vein as the new Street Fighters have been.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it looked pretty good. Me and Mike got to play a couple rounds with each other. They were pretty fast. Can't really say too much about it. I only played one round of it, so if I had maybe a little more time to play, like maybe 1 or 2 rounds, I would have a better understanding of the mechanics. But it plays just like any other Street Fighter quarter circle type game, where you have like your basic moveset, and you have like your medium, your light, and your heavy attacks. Yeah, and it looks pretty darn good, and it's got a lot of like moments where you're like attacking someone, and then it shoots like a geyser of blood out of their body and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just looked it up, and my favorite character from I think the one game is Nakamura, who I call Hawk Girl. She's the girl who like you fight with a hawk who like assists you in taking down people.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a couple years ago. I was over at Nick's place, and we just were playing Samurai Showdown. And I didn't know anything about the series or the game at all at that point, but we picked different characters and we were fighting against each other. And I picked Nakaruru, Hawk Girl, and I just started going to town on everybody. Like, didn't matter how big they were, how fast they were. I was just wrecking them, and I was like, oh man, like I found my girl. Like, when you're playing a fighting game and you find that one fighter that's like matches your play style, I was like, oh man, you and me, Hawk Girl, we got this. So yeah, that's really exciting. I'm really glad that they're still showing support for the series now. From what I understand, Samurai Showdown, that's more popular, I think, out in Japan than it is here in the West. Because you don't really hear like too much about it over here. But I mean, it's still been going on for a long time.
Yeah, I didn't know too much about it until recently, so I was like pretty excited about it. They're actually going to have a Samurai Showdown tournament at EVO this year.
Oh, that's exciting.
In lieu of the new game coming out, they're gonna have like early access to the game, and they're gonna play a tournament with it.
That's really, really cool. All the more reason to turn into EVO when that comes up this year.
All right, and so the last game I got to play that day was I went to the THQ Nordic section, and I got to try out their new game Biomutant.
Okay. What's that all about?
So, Biomutant was revealed last E3, and it's about you're this like little furry creature that you can customize, and he carries a sword and guns, and he's got like a little mechanical cricket that he has as a pal, and it's a third-person action game, and as far as like that, like, as much as I can probably tell you about it, I have no idea exactly how the story plays out. All I know is that you're out there and you're trying to fight other mutants in this world, and I guess you're trying to save the planet in some way. But it looks really good, like, just from the alpha build that I got to play. It ran pretty smooth, and one of the funnest parts of is that they give you a time to make your biomutant, and you can customize the fur, how much length it has, the pattern that it gives off, the way he looks, like the shape of his head and his body, and all that affects like his stats in game, like his the points you put into like his vitality or his attack power,
right,
or his speed. So that part I thought was probably the coolest part, was that they gave you like all this customization options for this character. So I'm looking forward to that one a little bit. I felt like it played similar to like a Devil May Cry in the way you strung together different combos based on the weapons that you used.
Right.
And other than that, I mean, we'll have to wait and see when it comes out how good it is.
It looks pretty colorful. I'm just looking at screenshots from it right now. Yeah, it looks like not like a really bright, vibrant color palette, but it definitely has a really good use of color to it.
Yeah, I thought it had a really good use of lighting and textures in this one. So
yeah.
I figured I'd try it out, and it was surprisingly good. I'll definitely have to keep my eye on it.
All right, awesome.
I did get a chance to look at the tabletop sections of PAX, but I didn't have much of a chance to demo any games.
Okay.
So
nothing really
as much as I can say about it.
So nothing really jumped out or anything. I mean, that's fine, because I know PAX, they have PAX Unplugged, which is here in Philly. That's usually like around November, December is when they hold that show. And that's one of their newer shows. I think it's only been around for a couple of years. So
yeah,
that's not really a main focus of PAX East. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. They have like a lot of vendors there that just deal in like different metal dices, and like they have like leather pouches that you can buy, like tables that you can get that are made of wood, that are made specifically for gaming.
Nice.
There's like a bunch of like board game vendors, trading card game vendors. They have like a whole section in the exhibition hall just for people who want to rent out a board game that they have, so you can try it out for yourself.
Nice.
So that was that day. After that, I got to explore the con a little bit more. They have a diversity lounge, which is for the LGBTQ community. They have like
very nice
places set up for them in the area.
Oh, that's
so like the Boston Gamer X people were there to talk with you, and then they had like a Pokemon club there that had a Pokemon gym challenge that you can take.
Oh, nice.
And then, yeah, it wasn't that big though. It was kind of nice. They also have like a rental game lounge that you can go in, that you can rent out one of the games that you can use to play in one of their sections. They also have like a Just Dance set up, so you can play Just Dance. They have a place where you can sit down and play a Jackbox party game on display. They'd have a beanbag room, which is just a room where you can sit in beanbag chairs.
Hey, sometimes you gotta sit. You need to. Sometimes you need to rest those. Your dog started barking. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So that's cool that they've got all that stuff set up, especially that section for diversity. That's really cool that they have that option available for people to access.
Right. So after Thursday, we didn't do much after that. So we went home, and then we came back Friday. There wasn't a lot of panels to do on Friday, so we kind of skipped that. They had a Bless... that was the second time we went through Bless Unleashed. Mm-hmm. And then we ran over to the Square Enix booth real quick, because they were giving away free foam swords.
Oh, nice.
They were advertising the new expansion for 14, Shadowbringers.
Okay.
And so they had like a bunch of displays for them. They were giving away t-shirts for winning against the demo, and we could not get into that because it was always full, so we just didn't do it. But it was cool. They had like they had a store there. You can go and buy some of their merchandise. They had a bunch of other games set up there, and that they're one of the bigger areas in the convention to go see. After that, I went and played a lot of the more indie games on Friday. So I saw they had a display for the new Double Fine game, Rad.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so they just announced that game, didn't they?
Yeah, if you remember from the Nindies, it was one of the games they had announced for the Switch.
Yeah.
So I played a little bit of that. It was interesting. It plays a lot like any kind of like action third-person game that you played in the past, like Brutal Legend or Zelda or any of those games.
Right.
The parts where the character would change into one of the mutated versions of itself, that I wasn't exactly sure how to activate. It kind of activated randomly depending on who I was killing at the time. So I would just get randomly an ability that lets me spawn mini versions of myself, like by laying eggs, and the eggs would hatch into like little tiny versions of myself. And there was one where I got like tree root feet, and then I can activate an ability that lets me root any of the enemies to the ground so I can attack them. And besides that, didn't do too much. There was like a some underground places I would fight in. I had to try and activate 2 like gate key switches, but I can only find the one. So I ended up just like running around the map the whole time trying to figure out what I was doing.
Right.
And then surprise game that I didn't think was here, but I ended up finding out was here was Tunic.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know. That was one of the games Justin said was one of his most anticipated games for this year.
Yes, I remember Tunic very well.
Yeah, so they were there, and I waited in line for that. And I have to say, it plays like a kid-friendly Dark Souls. Not to keep going back to Dark Souls, but that's kind of how the feeling I kind of thought.
Right, it's the Dark Souls of kids' games.
There's a lot of elements of Link to the Past mixed in with little bits of mechanics from Dark Souls. So you have like the dodge roll, and then you have the big enemies that you would have to kind of maneuver around and try and fight. Nothing is explained to you when you first enter the game. You start out as just this little fox with a tunic, and you wake up on the side of a shore, and then you just go and explore from there. So you're like going into like caves and finding loot. I found a stick that I could use to fight with at first, and then I got a potion that has like a one refill at first, but I think you get more if by unlocking more things later.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to a point where I found a sword, which let me slash all of the environment, so I can like cut down roots and go back and cut down bushes I couldn't get through before. And I got to this one part where I fought this huge boss, and then I died. And I wanted to go back and play it again, but I didn't have the time because I really wanted to try and do it a second time around and see if I can find more stuff, because it felt like I needed to play it again. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one coming out soon.
Nice. Yeah, that's later this year at some point. I don't remember if that's like fall or late summer.
It's supposed to be an Xbox One exclusive. I don't know if that's going to be like that forever.
Right, it might be a timed exclusive.
Right. And then it's going to go on Steam eventually.
Yep.
But I forget. I think it's iFly Studios that works on that. I'll double check.
Let me see. It looks like it's the developer is Andrew Schuldice, and the publisher is Finji.
Finji. Yeah, that's the name.
There you go.
It had the little fox on it, so I wasn't sure. But they were displaying that game, and then next to them was the Outer Land game.
The Outer Realms?
Yeah. And that one was pretty cool, too. I didn't get a chance to play it, but it looked good from watching it.
No, I'm sorry, the Outer Worlds. I'm sorry.
Is it Outer Worlds or Outer Land? I think there's 2 games with Outer in their name.
Well, there's the Outer Worlds. That's the game by Obsidian.
Okay, well, I know it definitely started with an Outer, so I guess moving on from there. One of the last couple games I got to play there. So one of them was, so one of my favorite games that I played this year. Huge surprise that came out of nowhere. The name of the game is called Sayonara Wild Hearts. And it's another game by Annapurna, the guys who did Journey and Flower and all those games.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this game is so hard to describe, but it was so cool. It's a rhythm-based motorcycle, skateboarding, dancing, game. You start out as this girl who gets this power from one of the major arcana from the cards that you use to predict the future. I forget what they're called. The arcana. tarot cards.
Right.
So they base it off of that, and it's very like astronomical, and you're basically going through like kind of similar game to it. Have you ever played one of Harmonix's early games? I think it's I don't know if it's Amplitude or something like that, where you're this guy and he's going through levels, and you would be matching the rhythm to the level, and you'd be trying to get through the game with the best score.
Yeah, I hadn't played anything like that before.
Okay. It's really hard to describe. So you're going through these levels, and you're playing... you're one point on a motorcycle, and you're trying to dodge obstacles, and you're trying to collect as many coins as you want. And then at some point, you'll be fighting other characters, and you'll be doing time button presses to the rhythm. And that's basically how each level kind of plays out. And it's very pop and synth heavy, so the music is very good. And the art style reminds me a lot of like old style PS2 games mixed with kind of very simplistic graphic design. So it's a very unique game, if you can imagine, because Annapurna, all of their games are so like Journey was so unique, and Flower was so unique in their design. So you can imagine like what their games are kind of like and similar.
Right. Man, all right.
So that was that, and then the last game I got to play was Secret Neighbor. It's the new game by Tiny Builds, the guys who worked on the Hello Neighbor games.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Secret Neighbor is like their take on multiplayer survival games like Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight. Mm-hmm. So you're in a group of like 5 or 6 characters, and you're all at first playing as kids trying to break into the neighbor's house to try and free your friends who have been locked in the basement. Oh. And one of the characters, it randomly chooses one person out of the group to be the neighbor, and he gets to disguise himself as the kid. And your job is to try and capture all the kids as the neighbor. You have to transform into him and then capture them and then transform back as a kid.
That's weird on multiple levels.
It is. And they gave me like this big neighbor plush, and it's for playing the game, and it's him with like a white Afghan, and it has like bloodstains on it. And I'm just like, oh, this isn't scary at all.
Yeah, that's very creepy.
Mm-hmm. But the game was kind of fun. Like I said, it plays a lot like those Dead by Daylight or Friday the 13th games where you're collecting stuff, and you have to like dodge the killer as you're approaching your objectives. But it was kind of simplistic. I think they're trying to go for an easier game for kids to play, so they had to dumb it down to a degree.
Right.
Each of the kids you pick, there's like a variety of them, and they all have their own ability. Like one is like faster. There's another one that can see one of the keys in the house if you activate his ability. There's another one that is braver. I don't know what the bravery does, except I think it has to do with like, if you get captured by the neighbor and you try and like break away from him, you have an easier time to do that.
Right.
I think that was it. The other things I did at the convention, I did some shopping. There's a few shopping vendors there. Shout out to Fangamer for having the best stuff, because they had stuff from like Hollow Knight to Persona 5 to games like Dark Souls, and if I can see like their catalog of stuff, they had like a lot of different like games that were indie that I guess they made t-shirts and maps and keychains out of, and I was like, oh, this is great, this is the best. ThinkGeek was there too. ThinkGeek probably had the next best stuff. They had like other exclusive statues that you couldn't get anywhere, and like stuff you couldn't get at their stores normally. Yeah, and some other games that I thought were cool but didn't get a chance to play. Katana Zero was there. One of the other games that was announced by the Indies. They had a panel there. Enter the Gungeon had a huge jumbo TV that they had on display that you can play on. So that was cool.
All right.
Let's see. The guys who make Valhalla were there, and they were giving away demos for 2 of their games. One of them was the Cyberpunk Bartender Action Nirvana game, and the other one was a horror title that I didn't get a chance to look at.
All right. Sounds like there was a ton there.
Yeah, Shovel Knight was there. They had a new Shovel Knight Showdown game, which is like a 4-player fighting game with their characters in the mix. The Creature of the Well, which was that pinball action game from the Indies, was there. Yeah, so I can keep going on and on. There was a lot of games on display I didn't get a chance to look at.
Right. So it sounds like you guys all had a great time there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the living conditions probably could have been better, but aside from that, the show sounds like it was a really fun time.
Yeah, the living conditions probably weren't at the best, but I mean that didn't really deter me from the rest of the convention, and I felt like I did do a lot more than the last time I was there, so I got to participate in a lot more like panels, and I got to play more games that I didn't think I'd find interested in, and it just felt like a overall better experience than the last time I was there.
All right, so it definitely sounds like it was a real improvement. You definitely going to be going back next year, or maybe the year after?
I'll think about it. It's one of those things where I feel like I didn't go the year before just because I didn't have the money to go last time.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I would have liked to go every year. I think it's one of those things where if you're in the mood, definitely should go. But if you're not, then I wouldn't force yourself to go, just because it's harder to kind of want to go to these things if you don't feel the need to go, or you feel like you want to be there. So then, like, the travel and the living there at a hotel for a couple nights and going through the convention is like kind of tiresome too. Like sometimes I had to like sit down and like just take a breather because I was going through so much stuff in like one standing. So it definitely like takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, Lewis, this was a really great episode. It was very informative. I am really, really glad that you had such an amazing time at PAX East. It's a show that I've kind of been itching to go myself at some point.
No.
If I had the means or the time to get up there at some point. But yeah, it's always nice to hear that you're up there and you're having an awesome experience. So
yeah, no, we should definitely go next time. You, me, Justin, we can make a group out of it.
Yeah, well,
that way you guys can all go and see it once for yourself.
Right. I mean, alternatively, we can just keep having you come back on the show and tell us all about your experiences.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good way of cutting out the middleman.
Yeah, but no, it's yeah, always a pleasure, always a blast. Lewis, thank you so much for just being you.
Thanks.
All right, so that's all for this week. Remember, Press A repeatedly posts new episodes Tuesdays on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, YouTube, and Spotify. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review the show or tell your friends about us. It helps other people find the podcast and will really help us grow. And thank you to all who've rated, reviewed, and subscribed so far. We love you. You can follow us on our Facebook page or on Twitter and Instagram. We are at PAR_podcast. I'm at Cgold113, and Lewis is at Louis T Animation. That's Louis, Louey Animation. You can email us any questions or comments at parpodcast@gmail.com. That's parpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check us out on our website, pressarepeatedly.com. That's all for this week. Chris and Lewis signing off. And remember to flail your sword wildly so you can stab your opponent through the neck. Press A repeatedly.